In today's video, learn the latest news surrounding both Mason Mount and Reece James as some of the biggest clubs across Europe are circling our star players. Following on from that, we have some big news surrounding Marcos Alonso's future, and I'll be discussing Todd Boehly and some of the big plans that we can expect from him once he becomes our new owner. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Smash that like button and please get involved in the comments, as for me, one of my favorite things to do during my pastime is just to read your guys' comments and thoughts and opinions of my videos. So, you know, it's really appreciated, and of course, always get involved and share your thoughts and opinions. So without wasting any more time, let's start with the first story, and I want to discuss Reece James and Mason Mount news. Now, before I even get into giving my thoughts and opinions and breaking this story down, I need to give a very quick disclaimer. You know, the reality is that this story is a bit of a non-story, and I mention that because we both know that Reece James and Mason Mount aren't going to leave us, and of course they don't want to leave us, as these guys are Chelsea through and through, and they have their sights set on staying with us. So, you know, I'm not here to be discussing whether Mount or James could leave and try and incite fear. That would be a waste of everyone's time. Instead, I just want to, you know, talk about the story, get the confirmation that broke surrounding it, and just talk about some of the things that this story does imply, which I find quite interesting. So, you know, we start with things, and originally this story was first broken by Simon Johnson from The Athletic. Now, Simon Johnson, of course, being an even standard, the guy has lots of Chelsea connects. It's not just any journalist. This isn't like some fake you know, clickbait story to like incite fans and get reactions. That's not the case. He reports that 3 of the biggest clubs in this country are actually following Mason Mount, and many other big clubs across Europe are also paying their attention towards the player. On top of Reece James, we know that Man City have had long-term interest for him. They see him as like a Kyle Walker successor, and Real Madrid are very publicly infatuated with Reece James, and, you know, ideally hope to sign him in 2023. So, of course, it's very flattering that players that we produce from our academy, an academy that is producing players that are ready to compete at a top 4 level to secure Champions League football, silverware, etc., etc. It's a big compliment that, you know, the biggest clubs in the world see value in what we're producing. Personally, I feel like once Mount and James get the contracts that they deserve for being some of our most important players in the team, then these stories will die. I mean, currently Mount's on what, 70k a week, Reece James is on 60k. They're all under 6 figures, and, you know, for your star most important players, for me, it's simple. Their wages, their contracts must reflect their value and worth to the team. Now, more information came out following the first story that broke, and from Italian journalist Angelo Mangianti, he actually just, you know, gives a confirmation that we're all hoping for and all want to read. And essentially, the reason why clubs are even pursuing Mount and Reece James to begin with, not only is it to take advantage of our current sanctions, but it's because they're surprised actually that some of these players are approaching their second year in their deal. You know, Mace Mount in particular being that player. And their belief was that, is there a possibility that Mount is trying to see his contract run down a lot more? And if that's the case, maybe we should like take advantage of this situation now, come in, declare our interest and try and make moves, which, you know, of course, the reality is we just can't negotiate deals or contracts to do anything due to these current sanctions. So I'm not worried and I'm not fearful. When new owners come in, you'd imagine one of the first things they are looking to do is securing players, important ones, onto long-term deals. That's the thing. Now, for me, it's also perfectly fine if other clubs did talk to Reece James and Mount. It's how this industry works, and ideally, I'd imagine, as it tends to be the case, that, you know, once you get an understanding, you can then use that knowledge you gain to help you get better contracts and use that as leverage. That's how it always works. And before I leave, you know, the article didn't mention anything about how the club are planning to sell Mount or James. I mean, of course, you know, big clubs will show interest in our players if they feel like they can obviously get them on a good deal. That's the reason why this article exists to begin with, and mainly just highlights the need to, you know, secure our key players into long-term deals. So some of the reactions to the news was a bit, I don't know, I didn't really agree with it. I felt like it was a bit too reactionary, and I felt like it was just taking it way too personal than it actually is, to be honest with you. So you guys, if you're here worrying about Mount, Reece James, let's not waste our energy on worries like that when the realities will never happen. So right now we move on to the next story, and I want to quickly discuss the latest surrounding Marcos Alonso before ending on Todd Boehly. Now, it seems like Marcos Alonso is set to become another player that is leaving at the end of the season, and he wants to return back to La Liga. Now, this report came from a Spanish account and was further then supported by Fabrizio Romano. And essentially Barcelona are showing strong interest in signing Marcos Alonso. They feel confident currently that they are going to capture Azpilicueta. And at this point in time, Alonso is one of 3 to 4 candidates that they're looking to sign left back for next season. But, Romano reports that even though Alonso respects the club, of course, respects everything that's been done for him as well, he feels like at this stage in his career, a return back to his home country would be the way forward. And when you've got some of the biggest clubs back in your home country after you, you'll get a big contract as well too, signing on fee. I understand where he's coming from. I get it. He's kind of completed his mission in England now, and it's maybe time to go back home in that sense. But he hasn't ever really played in La Liga. So, good luck to Alonso. But what's interesting is that Barcelona, of course, are actively holding talks, and reports are basically suggesting that an agreement is very close to being finalized now. So, Marcos Alonso, for me, I've always had like a love-hate relationship, but I have to admit, as the years go on, of course, as you get older, mature, and when you see players doing it for a long time, it's only natural that your opinions will, naturally change a bit as you start to maybe appreciate them more for some of the benefits they can bring instead of just focusing solely on their negatives. Now, we know that Alonso is not the complete player. I feel he's an intelligent guy, but doesn't have the pace, doesn't have certain things in this game as well, but he does have amazing traits, shooting technique, amazing aerially. He's got very good close control. He's comfortable, progressing the ball upfield as well too. And, defensively, I feel when he has support around him too, he's okay. He's not terrible. He's decent. But I do think now we need a wing back that has the pace, has the ability to get him behind that reece that Ben Chilwell was bringing to the team. And I feel like if we want Tuchel to fully cook, he needs to have a squad that's going to really execute his football to the highest standards now. And, stop forcing Tuchel to have to make tweaks all the time to accommodate where, I saw what he was doing at Dortmund. I've seen him at Paris Saint-Germain. There's a lot more that can come. So good luck to Alonso. I think he's been a worthy servant. Is he a Chelsea legend in my opinion? No, but I think that he's definitely like a Chelsea icon in that sense because he had many, memorable moments playing for us over the years. So right now we end things with the final big story today. And this was a very good article actually that came from the Daily Mail. So I'm going to have a link below in the description. I suggest that you guys give it a read for yourself because I'm only going to pick apart certain aspects from the article instead of giving you guys like a full summary, the most interesting ones essentially. And basically, the article was very in-depth. It discusses Todd Boehly, some of like his business plans and strategies for the LA Dodgers, the people he works with as well too, the people part of the consortium as well too, which he's used to buy the club, and just some of the, successes that he's had with the LA Dodgers and how that could translate once he takes over Chelsea Football Club. So there is a lot to unpack and digest with this one. But anyway, I'm going to focus on some of the interesting points. And to start, Todd is very much about keeping fans happy. That goes hand in hand with his business strategy. And as I keep saying in videos recently, it's one of the reasons why I support him. Of course, when you understand that you can find those successes, but it doesn't have to come at the cost of the fans. I think once you have their full support, that only generates more profit for you, more support. I don't understand why things can't be like an equilibrium where the consumer base can also be happy as well as the guys who are profiting, making money. That can coexist in this world today. And I do think that what he's done with the LA Dodgers has been a good example of what can be brought by having the right management, the right people, the right philosophy, the right strategies as well from a sporting sense and a business sense as well too. And I think that this is a type of like modern revamp that this club has needed for a while now because we're seeing Liverpool, we're seeing Man City taking advantage of data, new training techniques, new ways of playing, etc, and we can't go any further behind them now. Now, one of the ways that Todd is planning to keep us fans happy for next season is by making statement signings in the window. When new owners come in, if you're not making statements, then what are you doing? You're wasting everyone's time. And some of the statement signings being looked at are Declan Rice and Harry Kane. There's no bids being ruled out for them, even though there is an acceptance that they could be very impossible, very hard to do based on the clubs and based on the valuations of both of these players. But regardless, other players like Darwin Núñez, another player that has popped up again, the club are actively looking at the player, pursuing him. He has a ton of interest now from Man United, who are one of the favourites actually to sign him. Paris Saint-Germain other big clubs as well too. He's seen as a player that's a more realistic option, and naturally due to having a release clause that only makes sense. Now, I have released a video discussing Darwin Núñez, what I think he can do. I do feel like a lot of people are solely just judging him based on stats now, and I just think that, especially for strikers, you know, my motto is let strikers strike. You know, I know that the role of strikers have changed modern day football, but not too drastically. It just really depends on what the coach wants them to do. But he's a lot better than what people are suggesting he is, and you know, you can't just solely use stats to just describe his game completely, in my opinion. So he would be a smart one, as I think he would actually suit what Tuchel wants from the team, especially as like a Timo Werner replacement. But so go on, you guys, to give you more insight behind the article, a synopsis on each member of Todd Boehly's group. So that's Daniel Finkelstein, of course, you know, Miss Barbara, Mr. Weiss, Mr. Goldstein as well too, and you know, their level of expertise that they bring in each of their fields. You know, most notably with Daniel Finkelstein, you know, he released this you know, really like groundbreaking like article a few years, like many years back, called the Think Tank, where he essentially was one of the pioneers like introducing sports data analysis. He's the man that discovered Ian Graham, the current head of Liverpool's data analysis department. You know, and essentially the article does detail that, of course, you know, we run up huge losses every season. That is something that has to change immediately. And you know, one area at the club that could definitely be revamped and could really have a lot more focus would be our data analysis team. Now, it's not that our data analysis are bad. For me, it's more the fact that maybe they get undermined due to having owners that constantly kind of change the rule books for what's going to happen each season. You know, when you're not able to sign a player that suits an overarching philosophy, and when you're constantly adapting the needs of the team to who the manager is or circumstances, etc., it means that you're not going to use that data as efficiently as you could. So, you know, Todd, who's had big success using this at the LA Dodgers, and you know, has the guys in this team that know how to maximize, you know, this use of data to help boost teams. This could be a big advantage for us going into the future. So, of course, it does discuss other things as well, like potentially is Todd Boehly maybe bargaining a lot more on maybe the values that you could earn from the club, you know, things like the digital rights in the future, stadium costs, etc. You know, these are things that are, you know, we don't have the answers to at this point in time. But for me, I think currently there's a lot more positives to focus on at this point in time. As I said, read the full article for yourself, you know, get your own opinion, form that for yourself, and it did provide a lot of good insight. So you guys, now I'm going to wrap things up, keep things moving. Thank you for watching. Of course, check out today's match review. I talk about how I feel that Tuchel just hasn't found solutions against teams that park the bus. So hear my thoughts upon that. On that note, I'm Nini FC, this is Blue Lions TV. I'll catch you guys later with some more videos. Cool.